What a wonderful.
Hi, and welcome to DIY Creations. Today we're in the kitchen because we're going to go back to our navy bean series. I have found something else to make with the navy bean. Remember, the navy bean is the most nutritious bean in the world. So my goal is to find other things to make with the navy bean besides just making navy bean soup. So far we've made the navy bean soup, we've done navy bean muffins, and now we're working on navy bean tortillas. Don't buy them in the store. You can use the navy beans, grind them into flour, and have the most nutritious navy bean tortillas that you've ever tasted. So let's get started. First thing we got to do, of course, is grind the beans. So let's go ahead and talk about our navy beans, the importance of the navy beans. Stop and subscribe and like if you haven't got started on our navy bean series. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. And then let's go ahead and get started with prepping for our tortillas. Before we get started, here's a quick look at some of the nutritional value of the navy bean. Just one navy bean has all this nutritional value. First thing we're going to do is make the flour, our navy bean flour. We're going to use a coffee grinder that I bought off Amazon, just a basic coffee grinder. And we're going to just go ahead and grind the beans finely. I found that this coffee grinder works the best for me. Really easy. I take about 1/4 of a cup and I go ahead and just push down the button. And voila, I've got navy bean flour, just that easy. So we're going to go ahead and blend this up until we get about 1.5 cups of flour that we'll need. Sifting time. Now what you want to do is make sure you don't have any clunks in your flour because that's not going to knead well. So you go ahead and sift through it. You could use the sifting machine or any type of way that is most comfortable for you. But you want your flour to turn out like this. So you're going to stir it up and make sure all the lumps are gone before you start the process. Then our next steps will be the ingredients. 1.5 cups of navy bean flour, 1.5 cups of wheat flour, and our other ingredients. Then we're going to start the process here. We're going to have our wheat flour and navy bean flour is already mixed. We're going to make sure that they are stirred up well. Each process we're going to stir it up and make sure that it's blended well before we go on to the next step. So now that we have the wheat flour and the navy bean flour mixed well, we're going to take 1 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt, which I like to use, pour it in there. And then we're going to go ahead and stir that up and make sure that it's blended well inside the flour. It all helps with the process when you finish the end. Just taking your time and blending it well and just make sure, just give it a good mix. And then once you've got it all stirred up, you got a good mix in there, we'll start adding our other products. The next thing would be the vegetable shortening. That's what I use, is vegetable shortening. We're going to take 1/3 cup of vegetable shortening. I already have it leveled off. Usually just get a basic kind, whatever type you like. You can also use butter. Once you combine the 1/3 cup of vegetable shortening into the flour, you're going to mix it well with your hands. That's the best tool that you have. You're going to mix it into the flour, combine as much of it as you can before you add the water. So you're just going to squeeze it until it all just mushes through. It's going to be a little messy, so don't be squeamish. I've tried to use gloves before, but it's just the gloves make it worse. So just go ahead and blend it in well with your hands and make sure it's all combined. And then when you have it all mixed in, we're going to add our final ingredient, which is 1 cup of water. Some people use hot water. I prefer lukewarm water. You don't want to scold yourself in the process. You just want to make sure that the water is hot enough to melt the vegetable shortening that you put in there, but not enough to scald your hands. So just go ahead and check one more time and make sure everything is blended up well. And then we'll go ahead and start to gradually add the water to our ingredients. Now we're just going to mix it well. It's going to be a sticky mess, but this is the kneading process. We're going to add as much water in, just knead it in there. And then make sure it's blended in well. This process helps you not to have knots or lumpy dough. And then once you got it blended in, you just go ahead and continue to add more water in the process. And once you have the water in there, you can kind of see how it's working. It's starting to come together. Now, let's go ahead and start the process. We're going to add our final little bits of water. We're all going to save a little bit for the end, but we're going to get all the water in the process, but you just kind of add it in a little bit at a time. If you've ever made bread or anything with dough, the dough process, the kneading process is basically the same for everything. So if you never have before, just keep, doing it. Keep tossing it around and mixing it with your hands. You see I had a little trouble getting it off my fingers, but that's the process. Now you see it's less sticky on my hands and it's more sticking together. It takes a little while, but that works. Just make sure you get everything in there. And once it gets sticky like this and it's not as much on my hands and more on the bowl, I can take it out and put it on my cutting board. Some people use the counter, but I use the cutting board. But in hindsight, the cutting board moved a lot. So I would maybe in the future find something more stable to do your kneading on. Now I just add a little bit of flour, not a lot. If you add too much flour, you will make your tortillas hard and crunchy, and you want them to be nice and supple. So you only add a tiny bit of flour just to stop it from sticking to the surface. Now, like I said, it's going to take about 10 minutes to knead it the way that I like it, or you should, 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward that process through. After 10 minutes of kneading, it should be ready to set for about 30 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up in saran wrap, tuck it into a nice little ball like this, and then let it sit for 30 minutes. All right, now our dough is ready to be sectioned off into little taco shell tortillas. I'm going to make soft shell tortillas today, so they're not going to be as big as for burrito shells. So if you want to make burrito shells, you'll make them a little bit bigger than this. But I'm just going to make my balls about this size, and I'm going to roll them from here. And then I'm going to speed through this part as well. All right, now we're going to flour our rolling pin. We're going to flour our surface as well. And generally, you're going to flour your dough ball as well. On this first one, I didn't flour my dough ball as well to show you what it looks like if you don't flour your dough ball. It'll get sticky even if you put flour on your rolling pin and your surfaces. You also have to put some flour on your dough ball as well, and then it will spread a lot better. So I just added a little more dough here, a little bit of flour, and flipped it over a couple of times, and it's all set. Now we're going to just roll it out on your rolling pin. It doesn't have to be perfect, not for me or my family, but you're going to roll it out. Like I said, I'm going to do taco size. So as you can see here, it kind of flattens out nice and smooth. I'm just going to keep rolling it out into the size that I want. So I'm going to just speed through this and just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like to roll them out, how thin they need to be, and you could go ahead and make them the size that you want. These are about maybe 6-7 inches in diameter. And this is what it looks like when they're all done. I have about 3 of them on the plate. Now we're going to heat our oven for about 10 minutes on a medium high. I generally use a cast iron skillet. That works best for me. And then we're going to start with our first tortilla. What we're looking for is for the tortilla to bubble up from under the bottom. When you see it bubble up, you know that one side is cooked. And then I like it to get a little brown a little bit. So I'm going to flip it over for the first time, and then I'll let it cook there. And we're going to do the same thing. You can see that it's starting to bubble up a little bit there as well. What I usually use to keep them warm while I'm cooking them is some aluminum foil and paper towels. And then I just fold it in there as I make them. Now I'm going to fold it, at least flip it one more time. That's generally I like to have it flipped 2 times just to make sure it's done. And you see it's nice and brown. When you see those little brown spots on there, you know that it's good and ready to go. So after that, we're going to go ahead and pick that up. And you see it's nice. And we're going to put it in our little container and leave it there. And I'm going to cook the rest of them. Now that's all done. I am hungry. They look wonderful. They're nice and supple. They're not brittle. They're soft. They're all different sizes, but that's okay for me. You want them perfectly, brown, you can make it that way as well. But they don't break, they're not brittle, and they are ready to eat. You can also look at that. You just break it. I have just the thing for these tortillas while they're nice and hot. Soft shell tacos. What I'm going to do is I already had some chicken in the refrigerator, so I'm going to cut up some chicken, some bell peppers, and onions, and I just sauteed it real quick and made just enough for a nice lunch today. And what I'm going to do is add some avocados and a little bit of cheese, and they are perfect. I am so proud of myself. They are delicious. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I also have a little bonus for you. Another little way to save your tortillas so they stay nice and flexible and pliable, and you don't have to put them in one at a time or wrap them up in aluminum foil. You just get a nice size Ziploc bag and you fold them and stick them into a nice little Ziploc bag that has a little zip on it, the zip tie, and easy fixings right there. So you don't have to go through a lot, don't have to wrap them up in aluminum foil. Just keep them like that, and they last for about a week. If they last any longer than that, then you didn't make them right, because they should be gone. My family tears them up. So they're all set. And enjoy your tortillas. If you have any questions, don't forget to comment down below. I'd love to see your results. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep an eye out for our next video on what else we can do with the navy bean.